Hello Matchday fans, and we're introducing another member of our team. This time it's Jeff Sublett, who works on player card creation and QA. So he's the guy who's responsible for bringing all your favourite cards to life. He'll be telling us a bit more about the process, as well as his love of football, including Manchester United, Austin FC, and the time one bar owner thought he looked very similar to a Manchester United legend. Hope you enjoy it. For anyone out there listening, welcome to Meet the Matchday Team this week with Jeff Sublett. Jeff, thank you very much for joining us.
You're very welcome. Good to be here, Sean.
Thank you. And just before we start, I think it's always interesting to ask, where is it we are speaking to you from today?
I am coming to you from Austin, Texas, in the United States.
Oh, very nice. What's the weather like there at the moment?
At the moment, we're probably already close to 80 degrees Fahrenheit at 10 a.m., so it's going to be a lovely day.
Yes, nice. Very good start. It's very grey here, as usual, but I say that on every call. I'll try not to labour the point there. So, yes, you work in player card creation and QA at Matchday. Could you please tell us a bit more about what that role involves and what you're doing on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, just as the title suggests, I'm in the business of the player card creation for Matchday. So for when you log into matchday.com or to start to build your squads and are collecting cards of the various players, it's my team that helps sort of put those together. And we like to think that I think that's the player cards are really the heart and soul of the game. So yeah, I think it's a fun place to be.
Absolutely, yeah. They're pretty much the when we're promoting Matchday, they're there front and center, the player card. That's what it's all been about so far. So really vital work that you're doing, and from all of us, I would just like to say thank you for bringing those to life, because it's really been fun to collect them so far. So obviously it must it must be a very sort of complex process when you're creating this sort of database of cards. Could you tell us a bit more about what the actual process is of creating the individual cards?
Sure, of course. So I like to think of card creation really has four main parts to it. So the first part is just getting the permission to use the player's name, image, likeness, right? So Matchday gets this permission through our various close relationships with partners and players associations like FIFPro and MLS Players Association, NWLS Players Association, DFB in Germany, FootPro in Spain, to name a few. So we have really great relationships there. So that gives us the ability to here now we can use Lionel Messi's face in his name, correct? So the second part of that is just really getting all the data that you would see on the front of the car. So not only just the names, but what position do they play, or what's their nationality, things like that. We go in to say, all right, do we need to use, Neymar da Silva Santos Jr., or do we just put Neymar on the card? So we make some decisions there. And then I know you spoke to Kai on a previous one of these. He's also pulling all the data from their last 3 years or so of play that helps, sort of develop the player statistics that determine how good a card is going to perform in the game. So that's the second part of it, just getting the front of the card data. And then I would say the third is really just photo acquisition, right? So actually, we have the permission to use the name and the face. Now we have to actually go find a face someplace. So we work with a lot of different photo vendors around the world to see what we think is going to be the best image for that. And then the fourth is just the card template itself. So with the look and the feel of the border and the background that we have, be it sort of our standard edition or when we have special events.
Yeah, I meant we've spoken to you in the past about sourcing the images and how difficult that could be. I remember when I was just creating the promo graphics for this conversation, just getting a picture of you and whoever we're speaking to in a week. I think, oh, that's another thing to cross off the list. But then I think how many you must have to get. I think, well, I shouldn't really complain because Jeff has to build an entire database from those images. So my heart goes out to you because it sounds like a massive job. What would you say are some of the bigger challenges that you face in the process? Because you obviously explained it there. It sounds on paper, like quite a straightforward thing, but I imagine there are many places where it can get tricky when you're things you have to deal with.
I think you just called it out. It's the for me, it's the photo acquisition, right? So it's both the really fun part for me, and it's the most challenging part, right? So, we get to work with those different vendors, and in some cases, there may be 500 images to choose from, and according to our criteria, 5 of those might be good, and there would be some players that don't get as much coverage uh, to get as much coverage that we may have 5 images to choose from, and only one of them's good. So. Um, that's the part that's kind of fun. So we go out and look. I certainly have preferences for what I like, but we have some ground rules that, certainly we'd love to have a really high resolution shot. We'd like to have one ideally that's an action shot, meaning they're actually on the pitch when it happens. Um, but making sure that they don't have, you know, they have a natural look to their face. It doesn't look like they're grimacing after a yellow card
Yeah,
tackle or or something like
staring at a
that.
referee.
But
Yeah.
you know, you know, um, there's studio images shots that we can choose from sometimes, but a lot of them is on the play. I tend to like the on the play ones if we can get a good one. But yeah, that's it. We can't just go online and Google an image and use it. We have to make sure to go through all the proper photo licensing channels and making sure that everyone's sort of down the line, including the photographers who took the picture, get their due.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there must be so much involved with that. We were doing the employee cards that Joanne, one of our listeners and at
Hmm.
Matchday, was very kindly creating, and I think I asked my photo to be taken again about 8 times. So I can only imagine how a professional footballer must feel.
For sure.
Now we had a very very big landmark moment for Match Day today with the launch of our women's cards, which is a huge deal and very exciting for us. You can now add those to your Match Day squad so that you can create co-ed teams with male and female players, which is a really groundbreaking and exciting moment for us. How proud are you to have been involved with that and been, at the forefront of helping to, well, not even helping, but, like leading, creating those cards?
Extremely proud. I know that really everyone here at Matchday considers having women footballers in our game is not only like a differentiator for us, but really a way to help promote what is just such a growing part of the sport, right? Especially leading up to the Women's World Cup in July. So, I mean, I can't wait to see the television viewership numbers there. But very excited to have the cards out. One of our coworkers already mentioned that there's a Tierna Davidson card out on the marketplace. So go get them.
Yeah, definitely. It was really exciting to see that, when you just see that first one in there, you're like, oh my God, it's happened. It's like waking up on Christmas morning. So yeah, that was really, really cool to see. You touched a little bit there on the World Cup that's coming up, and that leads quite nicely into my next question. So we have different editions of the cards. You've got like
Hmm.
the regular season edition, 22-23. We had the World Cup 22 edition last year, and then this summer we'll soon have the Women's World Cup, and we've got the women's regular season editions as well.
Hmm.
Is the process pretty similar for all of them, or are there different things going on that you have to consider when you're doing different editions?
Yeah, the process is pretty similar, but just for the viewers that may not know about it, I'll talk a little bit just about what the cards are. So let me just first talk a little about what the regular season edition was for season 22,
Sure.
23. As you mentioned, we've got for each template that we have, which is sort of the border in the background, we have different rarities from all the cards. All the cards are going to have player name, position, nationality, etc. And that common card is the one that when you very first sign up for your user ID that you'll get in your user pack. It'll have sort of a cream colored background. Um, and this is probably the ones you'll see most in the marketplace right now. But we also create 3 different kinds of rarities for each player as well. So there's a limited edition rarity that has sort of an orange background, and we create a series of 10,000 of those. Rare cards have more of a little bluish background, and we create 100 of those cards with a serial number. And then legendary has sort of this tie-dye background with a little purple, and we create only 10 of those cards. So the same is true for the different templates. So we did the same thing for the men's FIFA World Cup Qatar in 2022. That template had a little bit of a red or burgundy logo, just like the Qatar FIFA branding, along with the World Cup trophy. And we work alongside FIFA to get approvals for those cards designed, but we want to make it feel like the event. And then for the Women's World Cup, it's going to have the same thing. So we are using the FIFA World Cup 23 Australia New Zealand branding guidelines. So the templates aren't released yet, but they're going to have sort of the tribal look and feel. You'll see the same that you'll see in, when you're watching on television, or if you're in person, that you'll see around the stadiums and on the screens. But we're very excited to get those large. It's a real fun, bright pattern, and our art team did a great job with it. And as you mentioned, we've got a couple other regular season cards now, with NWSL being launched yesterday, and very soon to see some MLS Players Association cards in system as well.
It's really exciting, with all the different ones we've got coming, and having, obviously can't give too much away about it, but having seen like the designs for the Women's World Cup so far, they look really cool, and yeah, like you said, really excited to get those out for the match day players. I remember you told us recently about how you had to have all the different files from
Mm.
every single card available in a database, and just how much room that took up. But technically, that does mean that you have every matchday card available. So, as someone who's working very closely with the cards, how is your own matchday squad looking? I know you don't actually have every single card, but
No. Well, I mean, I think my squad looks pretty good. Like, not to brag, but I'm currently in first in my weekly league
Nice.
at the moment.
No.
But I would probably ask you, like, which squad, because
Oh.
I think this is one of the cool things about match day and then just card collection in
Mm.
general, is that you can build more than one squad if you want to. So let me first say this. Yes, I've seen every card we've produced. Match day employees don't get any
Yes.
sort of discount
Disclaimer.
or
Yeah.
special access to anything, for
Mm.
sure. So when I'm building my squads out, I'm doing the same way that any user would. So I signed up for my username. I got some cards for free. I did get Allison as my
Oh,
goalie in my
nice.
first free pack.
Nice.
So he's up for sale for you Liverpool fans out there. Um, and then I invited some friends to get a couple more cards, but then really, for me, I went to the marketplace, and this is what was fun, where I wanted to make my squad better. So I first went and got what I thought were all the best players I could get to get my sort of all-star squad. And then, then I start building out squads for my favorite teams. I'm like, why wouldn't I want to play with a squad of nothing but Manchester United players? So I've spent some time scraping my pennies together to go find some good deals, and yeah, so I've got a Manchester United squad that I put in from time to time, and then I have my all-star squad that has players from all over the world, including, as much as it pains me, Man City and Liverpool players in there too.
It's very noble of you to take one for the team like that. You led us very nicely into the next question about your club support. But I was going to say as well, I think that myself and Kai both did like sort of themed squads for like
Hmm.
Liverpool and Newcastle players. But whenever I kept picking the Liverpool squad, I was they were they remember they lost a game against Bournemouth, and it made me not want to pick my match day squad because of it. And I was like, you guys have let me down too much. You're all dropped. So yeah, that's I guess the beauty of having the different squads. Like you say, you can mix it up like that. But like you did mention, you're a Manchester United fan, a big football fan yourself. What are
Hmm.
your first We spoke a bit about this one on one yesterday, but
Hmm.
what are your first memories of supporting Manchester United?
Well, the Manchester United support probably didn't happen closer till, oh gosh, maybe around 2015 or so. I have a history of soccer like most people in America, where you play recreational league soccer when you're young, but growing up in West Texas, as soon as to you're old enough to, you trade your shin guards in for shoulder pads and play American football. Um, and then I had my first games in person. I went to a Mexico Nigeria in 1995 at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas for a U.S. Cup game. That was sort of my first live experience, and we had different nations and just seeing really the passion all around, because there was no opportunities where I was growing up to go to a live football
Mm.
match. Um, my second live game is sort of the same sort of nationalism. My wife's family is from Uruguay, so we took a trip to Montevideo, and I was able to watch Uruguay play South Korea in a
Oh,
friendly
nice.
just prior to the 2002 World
Yeah.
Cup. And I went with her. I went with her uncle. He didn't speak a word of English. My Spanish isn't that great, so but we had such an awesome experience seeing this, especially. when in the home stadium in Uruguay when they raised the giant 1930 World Cup tifo before every game, just to remind everyone that hey, we were the very first
Yes.
one to win it, right? So those were, after following USA, my wife certainly has some Celeste blue in the house, but really, yeah, 2015 was, I think, where I went from casual soccer fan to really junkie. So I had this close group of friends who we consider ourselves sports fans of all sports, but I've said to ourselves, like, really, soccer's the number one sport in the
Mm.
world. English Premier League is arguably the best league in the world, so it's really time for us to jump on board and get involved. And there were six of us, and traditionally, there's like the top six teams in the league. So basically, we literally drew names out of a hat. And so we had Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City, Tottenham, and I drew Manchester United. So glory, glory. And there it was. When we said, okay, everyone has this team, like that's your team for life. And who knows that like that it becomes something that every waking moment I'm checking my phone and checking you know transfer talk and everything. But I'm a Manchester United fan. I've got the jerseys. I get everything. But like I said, thank God I didn't draw Tottenham, and now all those are my best mates and all the ones I hate the most at the same
that
time. But
that's
it's
a
fun.
really cool way of doing it. Yeah, I think that what you said there about like you stick to it. Like I know that some people are like, oh, you should support your, where your dad's team or your mum's team or where you're from originally. But I
Hmm.
think you can support whoever you want, but the one rule is you can't change. Like once you pick, you're in, and then like you're there for life. So good job, and I feel I can definitely feel for the Tottenham fan in your group right now. I'm sure they are thinking if I'd only picked out that other bit of paper, I'd be so happy right now. And I've mentioned this to you in the past, that I think that there's a bit of a look about you to a former Manchester United legend. I was a bit of Roy Keane there for you, and I think you told me a funny story about one time someone thought the same thing and thought that you looked quite a lot like Roy Keane when you were in a bar. Is that right?
Yeah, we do favor each other a little bit, and yeah, back when Roy Keane had like a pretty thick beard with a little gray streak in the front, I sort of had the same thing. And I was at a work convention in San Francisco, and a couple of coworkers and I went to this Irish pub after all the sessions, and I was with one of my coworker friends who happens to be a good-looking blonde woman, and we watched this male bartender staring at us, and he keeps pointing, like, kind of while whispering to his other bartender. And I'm telling my friend, like, "Hey, you've got to admire." But then we went up to the bar, and it wasn't her that he was looking at. He has this thick Irish accent, and he comes out, and he's like, "Holy bleep, you look just like Rokin. Here's a free pint. Can I get a selfie?" It was, yeah, it was quite fun.
Did you sign any autographs there? You could have made quite a killing on eBay.
Uh, yeah, no, but I would take the free pints all day long.
Absolutely, yeah. I would say the one thing that gives you away from Roy Keane is you're quite a happy person. Uh, Roy Keane maybe not as
Yeah,
smiley as you are. But
exactly.
yeah, coming back to the Man United team, how would you think the season's gone so far under Eric Ten Hag? You've got a very big game coming up on Saturday, FA Cup final. How are you feeling about that?
So first, I think Eric Ten Hag's been great for the team. I think he's really brought in some discipline and structure, and really made some hard decisions about the
Mm.
squad. I mean, benching and basically parting ways with the very moody Cristiano Ronaldo, and keeping your club captain Harry Maguire out of the starting lineup for most of the season. I mean, those are tough decisions to make.
Yeah,
And then you finish in the top four and head to the Champions League, and plus a cup win. And yes, I know it was the Caribou Cup, but it's still a
they all
cup.
count. They all
Um,
count.
they all count. I would argue that we had a more successful season than Arsenal,
I
to
think
my
you
Arsenal friend
could
in the
make
group.
that point. Yeah,
Um,
argument.
but as far as the FA Cup final goes, I mean, look, Man City's praying for the treble. It's not going to be easy, but I think in a one-game matchup with you know last game of the season, you give it your all, and I like our chances. David De Gea is playing great.
And of course, last time you played, you beat them. Came from behind and beat them. It's not. I don't think it's maybe as straightforward as people are making out because United have had some good results against City in the past few years.
I've seen both sides of it, so
Point.
uh, yeah. Any team with Erling Haaland on it, you brace yourself for a hat trick.
Mm.
So we'll we'll play hard.
Yes, it's that was very. I think you were very diplomatic in your answer there. We had one person on Discord earlier who's just flat out said, "Oh, I'm terrified." So fair play to that. I think I'm right. So you mentioned earlier that you're based in Austin, and I've heard, is it right that
Yes,
you're a fan of Austin FC as well?
I am. This is this first time that I've had like a real local club to
Mm.
support. So Listos Verdes, as we say, for the Austin. They're a green and black colored
Hmm.
team. Yeah, Austin's a relatively new MLS team here in my hometown of Austin. They're in the middle of their third season, and there's a lot of pro sports teams in Texas, but this was really the first legitimate sports team in Austin, and it's owned by former Columbus Crew owner Anthony Precourt, and our more famously minority owner, one of Austin residents, Matthew
Oh
McConaughey,
wow.
is one of the co-owners. So you know the chant that you hear in a lot of stadiums is like "Ole, ole, ole, ole."
Yes.
We have the same thing, but we sing "All right, all right, all right, all right," which is from his line from Dazed and
Yeah.
Confused. So that's pretty
That's a
fun.
very niche way of celebrating an owner.
Yeah,
Fair play.
yeah.
So how have they been? I know you said they're quite young, but how's it been going so far? How's the club been doing on the pitch?
So typical struggle first year, sort of, bottom of the table, while they were getting their feet under us and kind of figuring out who the right players in the squad and lineup would be. Second year was fantastic. We went to the playoff finals for the Western Division, only to lose to LAFC, who won the championship. So quite a great
Wow.
run there, and made it into sort of the the local version of the Champions Cup, if
Mm.
you will. And this season, a little bit of a slip. We had a win last night over Minnesota, so we're currently tied for sixth in points, but eighth in the table. But still plenty of games to go. It's a 34 game season, so we're not even to the middle of the season in the American MLS season. So hopefully they make a run. And yeah, a little different than most European League football. There is a playoff system, which is very
Mm.
American. So as long as you make the playoffs, it's sort of like being in a cup run in Europe. That if you win, you move on.
Nice. Well, best of luck to Austin FC. We'll be rooting for them here now that you've given them the shout out. Um, was it an Austin FC? Because I think I'm right in saying that you were. We have a match day one. We have some exclusive match day jerseys among the
Ah,
match day
indeed.
staff, and I think you were the first one to wear it to a live game. Was that Austin FC where you were wearing that?
It was the Austin FC Stadium at Q2 Stadium, but it wasn't Austin
Ah,
FC. It was a U.S. Women's National Team friendly versus
okay.
Ireland that was played here in early April. Yeah, so only a few comments on the match day jersey, but they were mostly from. I got to meet a lot of the members of the NWSL Players Association and U.S. Women's Team Players Association who were there at the same time. So I got to meet them and kind of sit in their section and cheer on the U.S. women.
Nice, very nice, very good to get that out there. Very brand conscious, very impressive. And I imagine it must have been a dream come true for you because it was, it's a local, it's your country, it's your local stadium, and all the Irish fans are over going, Roy Keane's over there wearing a matchday jersey.
I, yeah, it's fantastic. Other than Mallory Swanson got hurt that game, so she's probably out of the World
Oh
Cup. But
no.
other than that, feeling very strong about the U.S. women's team moving into the World Cup.
Yeah, how are you feeling about the upcoming Women's World Cup? Do you think the USA are going to retain the title?
I think they've got one of their strongest teams they've
Mm.
had. So, but I also know that the competition around the world is picking up like crazy as well. So I know the Germans and the English, and there's going to be a lot of competition there. But we're really looking forward to
Yeah,
it.
definitely. We'll be very excited to see that. So obviously we are creating games here, different games and experiences at Match Day. Are you much of a gamer yourself in playing video games?
I play a little bit. The one I like the most. So I've got a close friend named John who turned his get this turned his former living room in a combination of a wine cellar and an EA
Oh
FIFA
my
gaming room.
word, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
so our deal is I bring over some cheap six pack of beer because he says he never has beer in the house, and then he brings out a couple of like $35 bottles of wine, and we play FIFA for
That's
hours.
amazing.
So seems like seems like Fielder to me. So that's sort of the my prime gaming. But other than that, as far as mobile games, I tend to get hooked on one game and then play for months and find another. Right now, I'm playing. I'm sure, like a lot of people, like Royal Match
Yes.
and things like that. And then I'm about to the point where I'm ready for a new one. I'm certainly working on my match day squad.
Nice.
And then, if I'm traveling or something like that, I play a lot of like card games on my phone, so things like that too.
Very cool. I mean, when you mentioned there the half wine cellar, I know that like I've heard in the past that sometimes when people play Football Manager, if they get to like an FA Cup final, they go the extra mile and like put a suit on for it. But the fact that you're like, I feel like you're doing the kind of like Alex Ferguson, Jose Mourinho post match. The managers share a glass of wine and talk football, and I'm like, this is so classy. Like this is like
Yeah,
next level FIFA. So I've got to applaud that, Jeff. That's
yeah. In my college days, I was a big hockey video game player, and my roommate and I built a life-size replica of the Stanley
oh
Cup
wow.
with uh, with Tupperware bowls and aluminum foil that we would have out. There were not a lot of dating happening at that time.
Well, who needs it when you've got a life-size replica of the Stanley Cup? That's
Exactly.
no mean feat as well, because that's huge. That trophy, right? That's like almost the size of like a child, right?
Yeah. Oh no, it's close to, you know, 30 inches, 3 feet tall. So yes.
Wow. I mean, I mean, I'm sure your dating life has improved since then, but at what cost? Because you could have been
I know.
building trophies.
And as soon as I showed the my name written in black Sharpie marker on that tinfoil, what's not to love?
That's incredible. Like, where have you been keeping these stories? This is I've got a whole new respect for you now, Jeff. This is amazing. So obviously now match day, you mentioned them earlier. We've got the different rarities of cards. You've
Mm.
got the common at the bottom, and then you've got, as moving up, limited, rare, and legendary. And I was just wondering if you could pick out from your time following football your three players who could fill these roles. So basically, your top three players of all time from third to first.
All time.
Yes.
Uh, this is a tough one because I already mentioned earlier, like I'm a guy that likes to have like different squads for different, like, so
Mm.
I knew you were going to ask this because you ask it at the end of every one
Yeah.
of these. So do I go with like all-time greats and go like, okay, Messi, Maradona, Pele, like that's too
Well,
easy, right?
you
Or
can
do I go
interpret
with,
it any way you want. It's yeah.
I know, you know, I was certainly considering like, wow, I've got a lot of Manchester United
Mm.
legends or current players I could do, but I'm going in a different direction. What I'm deciding to do is with the Women's World Cup coming up
Okay.
and the first women's cards being released in my match day as we speak. And also, I'm a fan of the U.S. women's team. Plus, I know that like in our game, the women's cards are going to perform very well
Yes.
as well. So here we go.
Okay.
My limited card is going to be Olympic gold medalist, two-time World Cup champion, activist and advocate for all women's athletes everywhere, current NWSL and US women's team member Megan Rapinoe.
That was a great choice and an incredible introduction as well. I felt like,
The
yeah,
limited.
that was.
You wait.
Oh, wow.
Wait and see. Wait do you see who else I have? So my rare
Yes.
card. I've done a little homework here. U.S. National Soccer Hall of Fame member, six-time Soccer Player of the Year, 2012 FIFA World Player of the Year, two-time gold medalist, World Cup champion, 184 goals, and the only signed soccer jersey I have, Abby
Oh,
Wambach,
wow. Nice. How did you get that signed jersey? How
legend.
did that come about?
She was in Austin speaking at an event. My wife was the chair of the board of the Texas Conference for Women for many years, and they bring in these amazing women from all over the world and country that come just speak to different women business owners and entrepreneurs. And she came and just speaking about her role as a leader of a sport and a team and a movement. And so she was there, and I happened to sneak in and get one of my favorite football
Nice.
players.
Very well played. Well, if that's your rare, I'm very excited to hear your
Yeah.
legendary.
Oh, here we go. Legendary, two-time Olympic gold medalist, two-time World Cup champion, two-time FIFA World Player of the Year, and in my mind was the very first face of U.S. women's soccer, and it's Mia Hamm.
Nice. Yes.
And she just happens to be also my like soccer player crush growing up as a young man in the '90s. And yes, I'm that old. Yes.
Yes, if only she'd been around when you were making the Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
No, I
exactly.
think those are three great choices. I think what's good about those choices as well is they're players who kind of transcend the sport as well. Like a lot of people, even if you don't know
Absolutely.
football or soccer, you know those names. So yeah, very
Hmm.
strong names there. And I would also like to maybe recommend to you, if you do ever decide to leave match day, perhaps a job as a boxing announcer, because your introductions were just perfect. I was very, very impressed with them, and yet, yes, I'm very pleased that you did your homework. So thank you very much for
Yeah, shout out to Wikipedia.
that. Yes, they're always very helpful. But yes, I think that's everything I had for our questions, Jeff. So thank you very much for speaking us. It was really, really cool to hear from you about the processes involved with the cards, and some really cool stories from you as well. That Stanley Cup story will stay with me forever. I'm not even like a hockey fan, but that will never leave my mind now.
Well, it's my pleasure. I'm really excited to not only get the beginning of the women's cards for the NWSL that came out today, but the World Cup cards that'll come out in really just, a month from now, and then we'll be off and running for season 23-24 after
Yes,
that.
absolutely. Watch this space. We'll keep you posted on more updates, guys. And if you weren't able to listen to the full session today, we will get it up on YouTube and Spotify in the near future, so you can listen back. And you should listen back, because that was great what Jeff was saying. I mean, I those stories, everyone needs to hear them. So make sure you tune in. But yes, I would just like to say a big thank you to you again, Jeff.
Cheers, Sean, and of course, glory, glory, Man
Yes,
United.
okay. I will allow you to say that because you're a good guy. But yes, thank you to everyone who joined us, and we will see you again soon. Goodbye for now.